Imagine you are kneeling in the damp, frozen earth. Your fingers are scraped raw, your nails broken, because for the last 3 hours you have been digging rocky soil with your bare hands. The wind beats against your face, carrying salt and sand, but you don't feel it. You only feel the weight of the small, cold body lying before you. This is your child, the only living being that tethered you to this world. You lower him into the pit. You cover his face with dirt. Then you place heavy stones on top, not for ritual, but for protection. You hear the howling of wild dogs in the darkness. They are waiting for you to leave. You straighten up. You wipe your dirty, bloodied hands on the rags of your clothes. You lift your eyes to the horizon and see a tiny, barely visible white dot disappearing into the distance through the veil of an approaching storm. It is the sail of a ship, the only ship that could have saved you. It is leaving. It is dissolving into the gray mist. And in that second, beneath the roar of the ocean, a thought pierces your brain, sharp as a knife. It is not coming back. You are left alone. You do not yet know that this is only the first minute of your personal hell. You do not know that you will hear the next human voice only after 6,570 days. You do not know that your name will be erased from the chronicles. Your people will vanish from the face of the earth, and you will turn into a ghost dressed in bird feathers. All you have now is silence, silence that is louder than any scream, and the realization that you are the last living soul on a piece of dead rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Welcome to San Nicolas Island, a place where time stood still. This is the real story of Juana Maria, the woman civilization sentenced to death, but who achieved the impossible. She refused to execute the sentence. To understand the mechanics of this survival, we must first study the prison itself. San Nicolas Island is not the tropical paradise of tourist brochures. It is a geological mistake, the peak of an underwater ridge sticking out of the water 61 miles off the coast of California. From a survival standpoint, it is a stone sack. There are no forests here to shelter from the elements. There are no deep caves. The landscape resembles the surface of another planet. Yellow sandstone, deep erosion gullies, thorny brush, and reefs sharp as razors, against which the ocean grinds everything living. The climate here works against humans. The wind on San Nicolas blows always. It doesn't just blow. It howls, reaching hurricane speeds, stripping the topsoil and drying skin to the state of parchment. Sources of fresh water are critically scarce and hidden deep within the island. This is a zone of extreme stress on the organism. But the scariest part of this story is not nature. Nature is cruel but indifferent. The scariest part is people. Juana Maria's tragedy began long before her solitude. Her people, the Nicoleño tribe, lived here for thousands of years, existing in perfect balance with the ecosystem. But in the early 19th century, Russian industrialists and Aleut hunters came to the island. They wanted sea otter pelts, soft gold. A resource conflict began. What happened next historians dryly call skirmishes. But let's call things by their names. It was a slaughter. Firearms against bone harpoons. The water in the coastal coves turned red. Men were killed methodically. Women and children were taken into slavery or destroyed. Within a few years, a thriving civilization was ground into dust. Of 300 people, barely 20 remained, exhausted, broken, sick. By 1835, Catholic missionaries on the mainland decided to save the remnants of the tribe. The schooner Peor es Nada was equipped, a name sounding like grim irony. Better than nothing. Captain Charles Hubbard received orders: evacuate everyone. Completely clear the island. Imagine this day, late November. The barometer is falling. The sky is covered with leaden clouds, foreshadowing a Category 5 storm. The schooner rocks in the bay, rigging creaking, ready to tear from its anchor at any moment. Animal terror reigns on the shore. People, traumatized by years of violence, fear both the storm and the saviors. Loading begins. This is not an organized evacuation. It is a flight. People are thrown into boats along with their belongings. Captain Hubbard yells at the sailors. He knows the physics of the sea. If they don't leave now, the ship will be smashed against the rocks, and everyone will die. It is in this chaos, in this panic, that a glitch occurs, a fatal error. The boats push off, sails are raised, the schooner begins moving toward the exit of the bay, and suddenly a figure appears on the shore, a woman. She runs to the water's edge. She waves her arms. She screams something, but the wind carries her words back into the depths of the island. Why did she stay? The most common version breaks the heart. Already in the boat, she realized her child was not with her. In the crush, he was forgotten on the shore. Maternal instinct worked faster than the instinct for self-preservation. She didn't ask to turn the boat around. In such waves, it was impossible. She simply jumped overboard. She swam back toward the doomed shore, through the icy water. She chose her child over life. But fate is a cruel screenwriter. When she, gasping, climbed onto the shore, the schooner was already leaving. She ran to the village. She searched for her son, tearing her voice, and she found him. But it was too late. Likely, while loading was underway, a pack of feral dogs attacked the defenseless child. She found only a body. And so, we return to the beginning. She stands over a fresh grave. The schooner has disappeared. The storm crashes onto the island with all its fury. The first night. From a psychological standpoint, at this moment, her mind should have broken. The shock of losing her son, the shock of being abandoned, the fear of death. Such a cocktail of stress hormones usually causes organism systems failure. A person simply lies down and dies. It is called psychogenic death. But Juana Maria did not lie down. Something ancient woke up inside her. Rage. Cold, calculated rage. She wiped her tears. She picked up a stone and said to herself, "I will not croak here." A battle began that lasted 18 years. First problem, cold. The old huts were destroyed. The wind blew right through them. She needed shelter capable of withstanding a hurricane. But where to get building material if there are no logs? She went to Whale Beach. Imagine this surreal picture. A fragile woman wanders among the giant skeletons of gray whales washed ashore. The smell of rot knocks you down. She chooses ribs. One whale rib is an arc of super-dense bone weighing close to 50 kilograms. She drags them through the sand, feet sinking, palms scraping raw. One by one, she digs them into the ground, creating a frame. It looks like the rib cage of a monster. Over it, she stretches the skins of killed seals. Inside this house it smells of old fat, blood, and dampness. But there is no wind. This is her fortress. The nights were torture. Dogs came to her bone house. The same ones that killed her son. They smelled a living human. They scratched at the skins, howled, dug the earth under the walls. Every night she sat in the darkness, clutching a bone knife, listening to their breathing behind the thin wall. If she slept too soundly, she would be torn apart. Second problem, hunger. There are no supermarkets on the island. Every calorie you consume, you must obtain at the risk of your life. She became an apex predator, the main source of protein, abalone, sea snails, but they live in the surf zone, firmly attached to underwater rocks. To get them, you must wade waist-deep into icy water. Waves smash you against rocks. The bottom is slippery. One wrong move, one twisted ankle, and you won't be able to get out. You will drown or die on the shore from hypothermia and dehydration. She risked her life for every lunch. She developed a system. She hunted only at low tide. She learned to dry meat for reserves, hanging strips of seal meat in the wind. She realized if she got sick for even a day, she would die. Getting sick was forbidden. After a year, her clothes turned to dust. Walking naked in such wind meant getting pneumonia. She needed a new skin, and she created a masterpiece, a dress that would become legend. She turned her attention to cormorants, large black seabirds with iridescent plumage. Their feathers are the perfect insulator. They are waterproof and hold heat. She began hunting birds, hundreds of birds. Imagine this titanic labor. Kill a bird. Carefully remove the skin without damaging the feathers. Dry it, and then sew. She had no needles. She ground them from bones. She had no thread. She cut sinew from the backs of dead seals. She split them into fibers and twisted them on her thigh into strong thread. One stitch, a second, the 10,000th. She sewed this dress for months, sitting in her hut of bones by the light of a dish of seal fat. When she finished, it was not just a dress. It was a royal mantle. It shimmered with black-green light, like dragon scales. It reached her ankles. It protected her from rain, wind, and cold. In this dress, she ceased to be a victim. She became the mistress of the island. But if hunger and cold can be fought, how do you fight silence? The human brain is a social organ. Neuroscientists say that in conditions of total isolation, the brain begins to devour itself. Hallucinations begin. The sense of time is lost. Personality disintegrates. 3 years later, a crisis began. It started to seem to her that she saw ships. She ran to the cliff, screamed, waved her arms, cried with happiness, until she realized it was just a cloud of strange shape, or a trick of light on the waves. Every time hope shattered, it hurt more than a physical wound. After such moments, she lay in her hut for days, staring at the wall. Depression rolled in black waves. Then came the voices. She heard the ocean calling her name. She heard her son's laughter in the noise of the wind. She saw shadows of people in her peripheral vision. She realized she was going insane. And then she invented a strategy to save her sanity. She started talking, loudly, constantly. She spoke to the seagulls that landed on the rocks. She gave names to the seals. "Good morning," she told a bird. "Today the wind is from the north. It will be cold." She commented on her every action. "I am taking the knife. I am going for water. Water is good." But most importantly, she sang. She remembered all the songs of her people. Ritual songs, harvest songs, lullabies. She sang them every evening, standing on the edge of the cliff, out shouting the ocean. She sang not for entertainment. She sang so as not to forget the words, to preserve the neural connections in her brain, so that the Nicoleño language would not die while her body lived. She turned her life into a ritual, notches on sticks, a calendar, arranging shells, cleaning the hut. Order saved her from the chaos of madness. 10 years passed, 15, 18, 6,570 days. She changed. Her hair turned gray and matted into a stiff mane. Her face was covered in deep wrinkles. Her skin became dark and hard as tree bark. She no longer ran to the shore if she saw a sail on the horizon. She knew they were not for her. Resignation. A terrifying word. She accepted her fate. She knew she would die here, that her bones would lie next to the whale bones, and sand would cover them, and no one would ever know her story. But fate, as we know, has a twisted sense of humor. 1853. Sea otter hunter George Nidever lands on the island with a small crew. They walk through the dunes, and suddenly one of them stops. A footprint, a clear print of a human foot on the sand, but it is too small for a man. They look at each other. A chill runs down their spine. Are the legends of the ghost of the island true? They begin a hunt. They find a basket with water hidden in a ravine. In the basket, feathers. They realize a woman lives here. On the third day, they climb the hill to the House of Bones. This moment should be in history, textbooks, the meeting of two worlds. Juana Maria was sitting at the entrance to the hut. She was scraping a hide. She was wearing that very dress of feathers. She heard the crunch of footsteps. 18 years of silence were broken. She slowly raised her head. The sailors tensed, hands on their guns. They expected the savage woman to throw herself at them with a knife, or run. But she did not run. She looked into their eyes. There was no fear in her gaze. In it was the dignity of a queen receiving ambassadors. She smiled. She stood up, made an inviting gesture, and offered them food, roasted roots. She spoke. A stream of sounds flowed from her throat, clicking, whistling, guttural. None of the men understood a word. Linguists would later say that this dialect was unique, but the meaning was clear without translation. I was waiting for you. I am ready. She gathered her things, her bone needles, her baskets, her dress. She looked at the island for the last time, at her son's grave, which had long since been leveled with the ground, at the hut of bones that saved her life. She stepped aboard the ship. In Santa Barbara, she was greeted like a wonder of the world. The whole town poured into the streets. Newspapers came out with headlines, "Female Robinson Crusoe found." She was lodged in Captain Nidever's house. It seemed like a happy ending, a Hollywood happy ending, rescue after hell. She was happy. Witnesses say she constantly sang and danced. She touched fabrics with childlike delight, looked in mirrors, tasted new food. She gave guests her crafts. She loved horses. She thought her trials were over, that now life would begin. But civilization turned out to be a killer scarier than the wild island. Her organism, accustomed over 18 years to a sterile environment and ascetic diet, had no defense. On the island, she ate only protein and fats. In the city, they started feeding her bread, corn, fruit, fatty meat of domestic livestock. For her gut, it was a toxic blow. The second blow was delivered by microbes. Over 18 years, the world had changed. Viruses mutated. People on the mainland had immunity. She did not. She was sterile as an infant. Just 5 weeks after rescue, she felt weakness. Then came the fever. Dysentery. She burned up before their eyes. Doctors were powerless. She died not on cold stones under the howling wind, but in a soft bed with lace pillows. But she died in agony. In her last days, she started speaking her language again. She called for someone. Her son. Mother. A priest managed to baptize her. He gave her the name Juana Maria. This name would be written on her tombstone, but it is not her name. Her real name, the one she whispered in the darkness for thousands of nights, so as not to forget who she was, went with her. No one managed to record it. On October 19th, 1853, just 7 weeks after returning to people, her heart stopped. The woman who defeated the ocean, the woman who defeated hunger, who survived the loss of a child, attacks by dogs, cold, and absolute maddening solitude. She was killed by a plate of soup and human curiosity. She was buried in the Nidover family vault. Her famous cormorant feather dress was sent to the Vatican as a unique artifact. But on the way, it was lost, vanished, like everything that was connected to her. Of Juana Maria, nothing material remains. Only the story remains. A story about the incredible, almost frightening strength of the human spirit. About the fact that even when everything is taken from you, family, home, hope, voice, you can still remain human. And if you ever find yourself on the coast of California, look at the ocean. There, in the fog, lies San Nicolas Island. And if you listen closely to the howling of the wind, perhaps you will hear her song, the song that defeated silence.